Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we'll be watching a movie from the year 2004 titled The Terminal. The movie is partly based, or you could say inspired by the real-life story of Mehran Karimi Nassari. So, let's get started. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The movie starts and we see an influx of passengers who have just arrived in America. At the JFK airport, the passengers go through the customs to get their visa approved and make their stay into the country legal. Victor Navorsky is one of those people who have just landed in the country, but during the immigration process, we see that his passport verification fails. Victor is then taken and questioned by the airport police on the reason behind his visit to the United States. Coming from the Eastern European nation of Krakozia, Victor doesn't understand and speak the English language, so the conversation between him and the officer goes nowhere. Then the officer confiscates Victor's documents and passport. He is then met by the customs director, Frank Dixon. Victor is told by Dixon that the visa which was going to let him enter the United States has been revoked. Dixon further explains that while Victor was in the air flying to America, there was a military coup in his country, and Krakozia no longer has a recognized and standing government. It means that Victor's passport is no longer valid, as Krakozia is no longer recognized as a country. But out of everything that Dixon said, Victor only understood the word Krakozia. He's still oblivious to what was happening in his country. However, Dixon continues to explain that his country has banned all entries in and out of its territory until a new government is formed. Victor is now countryless, and he cannot go back to Krakozia. On the other hand, since he no longer has a valid visa and passport, he also can't enter the United States. Since he isn't allowed entry to either of the countries, Dixon says that Victor is only allowed to stay in the International Travel Lounge of the JFK airport until everything in his country gets sorted out. Victor shakes hands with Dixon without knowing anything. He's then taken to the International Transit Lounge and is given some food and call vouchers. Victor's confused about what he's supposed to do, but he soon finds out about the seriousness of what was going on in his country through the TVs in the lounge. Seeing the news, Victor gets extremely worried. He cannot hold back his tears seeing the state his country was in. With the call vouchers he was given, he tries to call his family to know about their safety, but since everything is written in English, he's unable to contact them. He asks passerbyers for help, but in this huge crowd of people, Victor is all alone. And soon his food vouchers also get taken away by a cleaning staff who mistakes them for garbage. At night, he goes to an unused section of the airport. He fixes himself a bed from the broken chairs, and he even turns off the lights, as if he's in his own room. He looks at a can which he brought with him from Krakozia and goes to sleep after a rough first day at the airport. Victor starts the next day as if he was in his own house. He wanders around in a robe and uses the restroom to take a shower. Victor can simply walk out of the airport, but he isn't an unlawful man. He gets in line to get his visa approved, but the staff there tells him the same thing as Dixon, and his request for a visa gets rejected. Meanwhile, Dixon's boss informs him that he is soon going to retire. And after his retirement, Dixon is going to be the prime candidate to take over his place. Hearing this, Dixon knows that he has to impress everyone, and any signs of inadequate performance on his side will affect his chance of getting promoted. So, Victor's presence at the airport was going to be a problem for him. He somehow has to get Victor off from this airport. Dixon goes up to Victor and tells him that at 12 p.m. today, the guards will leave from their post. During that period, Victor can leave the airport and enter the United States. That, of course, will be illegal, but Dixon wants him out of his airport at all costs. He plans to catch Victor while he tries to get out of the airport, and then he'll be dealt with by authorities outside of the airport. At exactly 12 p.m., Victor is about to leave the airport, but he realizes that the security cameras are watching him. He notices that even his slightest movements were all followed by the camera. Victor knows that he's being set up, so he looks at the camera. So he says that he will wait and enter the country legally. Dixon's plan to get rid of Victor fails. A flight attendant slips on the wet floor and breaks her shoe. Frank goes up to her and helps her. He collects her bag and also sees that she has a boyfriend. Meanwhile, Gupta, a cleaning staff, has started to take notice of Victor. He believes Victor is a CIA agent who's been sent there to spy on workers who are from outside the country. He's afraid that Victor was there to deport them all back to their country. His friends don't believe him, but Gupta is insistent that they should be careful of Victor. Few days have already passed, and Victor is still at the airport, and he's hungry. He has no money or food vouchers to buy food for himself. But then he comes across a lady who brings carts to their station, and in exchange takes money from it. Victor realizes that it can help him. So he collects some carts and brings them back to the cart station. In exchange, he gets a lot of coins out of the machine, and with that money, he's finally able to buy himself a burger. The airport officers are also left astonished by his cleverness. Victor now brings as many carts as possible and gets more coins than before. With that much money, Victor manages to buy himself a large meal. Finally, something positive is happening in his life. But back at Crocozia, things are still bad. A few days later, Victor buys himself some books to learn English. Soon he begins to understand quite a bit of English. Dixon, on the other hand, wants to make life difficult for Victor, so he leaves the airport. He hires a new worker to collect carts, and now Victor will no longer manage to buy himself food. As usual, Victor gets in line for 2 hours to get his visa approved and gets rejected like always. But he doesn't fail to impress the officer with his positive attitude. Victor's hungry and he has nothing to eat, but a cargo worker from the airport offers him food. His name is Enrique, and in exchange for giving Victor food, he wants information on the customs officer Torres, who he has a massive crush on. Enrique wants to impress Torres, so he asks Victor to gather as much information on her as possible. Victor agrees to it, and from then on, his regular visit to get his visa approved, he asks Officer Torres all sorts of questions. His visa request gets rejected as always, but he manages to get the answers, which he then takes to his new friend Enrique. And that's how Victor manages to keep himself full and makes 2 new friends in the process. One day, while Victor is talking to Enrique, his pager starts to beep. Victor believes he has some good news and starts to excitedly run towards the customs office. He meets with Dixon, who tells him that he has a plan to get him out of the airport. The idea is that he wants Victor to file for asylum in the United States after claiming he doesn't feel safe to return to his country, Crocozia. If his asylum request gets approved by the immigration department, he gets to leave the airport and live in the USA. But Victor clearly says that he's not afraid of his country. He goes back to the International Travel Lounge, and there he sees the girl he met on the first day of his arrival at the airport. Her name is Amelia, and Victor sees that she's crying. Her boyfriend cheated on her, and now she's sad. Victor goes after her and tries to comfort her. The 2 of them engage in a conversation, and Amelia asks him to go out for dinner. But since Victor can't leave the airport, he refuses the offer. He tries to make Amelia understand his situation, but Amelia thinks that Victor isn't interested in her. Amelia leaves embarrassed, but Victor seems like he has a plan. He goes to the airport shops and asks them for a job, but since he lives at the airport and has no address or contact information, nobody's willing to give him a job. Then one night, out of boredom, Victor begins to work on an unfinished wall at the airport. He soon finishes it, and the construction contractor gets impressed with his work and hires him. And now Victor has himself a job, which pays him $19 an hour. With that money, he buys himself a suit, and he also managed to befriend some of the airport workers too. One day, the inspection team arrives to check the operations of the airport. Dixon tries to impress everyone because he wants that promotion. Then, a man is seen causing a scene in the customs office. He's brought some medicines with him, which he doesn't have any documents for. The man is from a country near Crocozia, so Dixon invites Victor to serve as a translator. In exchange, Dixon promises to help him leave the airport. Victor translates the distressed man's language and tells them that the medications are for his father. But Dixon makes it clear that whatever the reason behind the medicines, he will need necessary documents for it to take them outside the United States. The police detain the man and take the medicines away from him. Victor feels sympathetic towards the man, and then he lies that the medicines are for goats. He lies that he made a mistake in translation, and the medicines are for his goat and not his father. Dixon realizes what Victor's trying to do. Victor has been reading the forms at the airport, and he knows that medicines for animals don't require any documents. Dixon warns Victor that if he's trying to help that man, he will never help him leave the airport. But Victor insists that he made a mistake in the translation. The man then also lies that the medicine he bought with him were for his goats. They have no option but to give the medicines back. Dixon finally snaps out at Victor and grabs him by the neck. Meanwhile, the inspectors see everything, and Dixon's chances of getting a promotion get very slim. On the other hand, Gupta tells everyone about what Victor did for the poor man. His act of generosity spreads all over the airport, and he gets the respect of everyone. He goes to Dixon to apologize for making him look bad, but Dixon isn't moved by anything. He asks Victor what's inside the can that he's always carrying with him. Victor replies that there is a promise inside that can. Dixon gets angry and says that as long as he's in charge of that airport, Victor will never leave from there. All this while, Victor, with the help of his friends, meet with Amelia again and ask her out for dinner. Amelia accepts Victor's offer and goes out for dinner at the airport, where Victor's friends help create the atmosphere of a real restaurant. The two of them start to talk, and Amelia says that she's fed up with her life. She has spent most of her life going in and out of the airport and wants to live freely. Her pager starts to beep, and Victor says that he too is in some way stuck at the airport. The date's going very well, and at the end, they plan to meet again in 13 days. Meanwhile, Victor has successfully managed to help Enrique. Him and Torres have fallen in love with each other and have gotten married. Victor also starts to work on something that he plans to show to Amelia as a surprise. Soon the wait is over, and Amelia is back at the airport, but she gets called by Dixon to his office. Since he has seen Victor with Amelia, he wants her to get information on Victor. He wants Amelia to find out what's inside the can he always carries with himself. Dixon reveals to her that Victor has been living at the airport for 9 months now. Hearing this, Amelia feels that she was lied to by Victor. She meets with him and says that she was going to break up with her boyfriend because she was starting to like him. She tries to get away from him, but Victor says that he wants to show her something. He takes her to the place where he was building something in the past weeks. He uncovers to show that he made a fountain with broken plates. He knew that Amelia was very fond of the history of Napoleon, so he built a fountain for her, just like how Napoleon had built one for his wife, Josephine. To gain her trust back, Victor decides to show her what's in the can. He opens the can and takes out a picture of a jazz group. He says that his father was a very big fan of the jazz group and had written each of them a letter. After waiting for over 40 years, his father had managed to get signed autographs from the members of that jazz group. Amelia starts to get emotional, and Victor says that only one member was left who didn't send back any signed autographs to his father. That person's name is Benny Goldson, and unfortunately, Victor's father died before adding his signature to his collection. But before his death, Victor promised to his father that he would get the signature of Benny Goldson and complete the collection for him. That's why Victor had come to America and was waiting to meet Benny Goldson to get his signature to keep the promise he made to his dying father. He says that he will wait no matter how long it takes for him to meet that person, and that he will also wait for Amelia because he loves her. Amelia is moved by Victor's selflessness. She gets up from her seat and kisses Victor. One morning, Victor is woken up by his friends who tell him that the war is over in his country. Victor starts to celebrate with the people at the airport. Amelia also reaches there, and Victor very happily shows her that the war is over, and now he is free to go back to his country. Amelia is very happy for him, and she has bought Victor a legal document which allows him to leave the airport for 1 day without the requirements of a visa. He can finally enter New York and get the signature of Benny Goldson for his father. But we soon find out that the papers were managed by Amelia's boyfriend, who's a very powerful government official. She didn't break up with him, and she plans to get back with him. But before going back to him, she wanted to help Victor. So she got her boyfriend to get the travel pass for Victor. On the day when Victor got 2 very happy pieces of news, he was left sad with the one where Amelia left him. Victor goes to Officer Torres and shows her the travel pass. Seeing the pass, Torres gets extremely happy for him, but she realizes the document needs to be signed by Dixon. Victor goes to his office and asks him for his signature on the document, but instead of signing it, Dixon gives Victor his passport back and tells him that he needs to leave America. Victor insists that he will leave for his country once he enters New York, but Dixon doesn't want to make it a happy ending for Victor. He blackmails Victor that if he doesn't return to Krakozia, his friends will lose their job and get deported back to their country. Without even a second of thought, Victor agrees to leave America and go back to Krakozia, all for the sake of his friends. His friends try to stop him, but he doesn't want to trouble them. Gupta, on the other hand, is mad at him for leaving after waiting for so long. He calls Victor a coward for not fighting against Dixon. But Victor leaves without telling him that he was doing all of this for them. Then an officer finally tells Gupta why Victor was leaving without entering New York. Dixon is very happy that he will get rid of Victor once and for all, but his happiness isn't going to last for long, as we see that Gupta is trying to stop the plane on which Victor is going to travel back to his country. He doesn't fear getting deported back to India if it means that Victor will get to fulfill his promise to his father. The flight to Krakozia is officially delayed until further notice. Victor will now leave the airport. Seeing him leave, everyone rushes to see him off. They all bring gifts for him and wish him the best on his journey. Dixon sees everything and calls the officers to guard the door and not let Victor leave. Now the guards are the only ones standing in between Victor and New York. Dixon orders them to take Victor into custody. Officer Thurman tells Victor to turn around, but he puts his jacket over him, saying that it's snowing in New York and he'll feel cold without an extra layer of jacket. Dixon can't believe what he's seeing, and Victor, with the help of everyone, walks through the door and finally steps out of the airport for the first time in 9 months. Victor takes a taxi and leaves for his destination. Dixon arrives just a little late, and an officer asks if he still wants to stop him. But Dixon is tired of all this. He's accepted defeat to Victor and is rather impressed by him. Victor finally gets to meet Benny Golson. He tells him about his father and asks for his signature. Before he could sign it, the band starts to play, and Victor will have to wait a little longer to get his signature. But waiting is not a problem for Victor. He sits there with tears in his eyes as he sees Benny Golson play the music his father was a fan of. He finally gets the signature and completes the collection his father started 40 years back. And with this, Victor can finally go back to his country, his home. And the movie ends with a content look on Victor's face. In the movie, Victor spends 9 months living at the airport. Mehran Karami-Nasseri, the man whose life inspired this movie, spent a total of 18 years living at Terminal 1 in the Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more movie recaps.